Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of our very own fee-only certified financial planners. Please note this podcast is intended for educational purposes and should not be considered financial or investment advice, as we do not know all the variables to one's personal situation when answering a question. Before we jump into today's question, a shout out to our extraordinary YFP financial planning team that makes this segment possible. Your Financial Pharmacist offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning services that are customized to the pharmacy professional. So whether you want to pay off your student loans, make the right investment decisions, or simply build a solid financial plan, we'll help get your income working for you rather than the other way around. You can learn more by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. This week, I'm excited to have YFP lead certified financial planner Kelly Reddy Hefner joining me on the show to answer a question from a YFP community member. This week's question comes as an anonymous question that was submitted in the YFP Facebook group. The question is, I'm planning on going out on maternity leave with my second and recently switched jobs to move to be closer to family, so I have no benefits, FMLA, or anything else. I was prepared, so I have money saved up to pay bills and mortgage. I refinanced my student loans a few years ago and was seeing if it would make sense to ask for a temporary payment hold. I have the funds to pay them, but I would be drastically cutting into anything other essential I might need for the new child. Also, how long could you not pay if I decided to go this route? Kelly, what are your thoughts?
Thank you for the question, and thanks for having me, Tim. So I would say, first, of course, warm congratulations on the addition to your family. What you're speaking about are normally hallmark provisions of the federal student loan program. So that income-driven repayment option, the opportunity for forbearance, if things are kind of happening in your life that would mitigate needing that. In terms of private student loans, which is what we're talking about in this case, those provisions can vary, and they depend on the individual student loan servicer and what policies and practices they have in place. So I would say the first step is to contact the loan servicer that you have your loans with, and you're going to be asking them, do they have a parental leave or a working mother deferment, working parent deferment, and is that forbearance available? So kind of subset to that question, if the answer is yes, is to understand where's the application, where to locate that, what are the eligibility requirements, what documentation do you need? And then I think really important is, as you said, what is the length of time that you can do this? And I would ask, even though I think we know the answer, that will interest continue to accrue? Likely yes, but ask the question. So this is available at a couple different loan servicers that I could see easily. I don't know who your individual loan servicer is for these, but Navient has some policies, Earnest, Laurel Road. For example, Earnest allows for an unpaid maternity forbearance of 12 months. So that's an option.
And I think, Kelly, this is a great reminder, as you mentioned at the beginning, that when it comes to private loans, for those that move their loans from the federal system to the private system or had private loans from Jump Street, depending on how they ultimately borrowed for school, not all of the provisions afforded to one in the federal system are going to be afforded in the private system. And there's differences among private lenders. So if Tim Baker were here, he would say it depends, right? It depends on the private lender. And I think this is a good reminder for those that are currently in the federal system that are looking at perhaps refinancing their loans, whether it's later this year into the future, or for those that already have private loans and have already made that refinance or are looking to refinance again, making sure that, yep, we want to run the numbers. Of course, we're looking at what might we save from an interest rate perspective, but also beyond the math, what are some other factors and some benefits that might be afforded in the federal system that may be different in the private lender or might even be different from one private lender to the next. So this is, I think, one of those unique situations where you may see some differences from one private lender to the next. And I think picking up the phone, asking some questions, getting ready to ask those questions multiple times, making sure you get your answers is probably, great strategy and advice here.
Absolutely. And again, I think, can you do it? Potentially. Should you do it? It's another question as well, which was a component. Just make sure, if interest is accumulating for the entire time that you're not making the payments, you're going to end up with that higher loan balance. Is that a desirable outcome? Making sure your emergency fund is in place, having your wages replaced, but also making sure you're prepared for any other event that might occur? And does the paying of the loans create really a financial hardship, or can you continue to do it and still pay your other things in this process?
Yeah, great point. And in the question, it was mentioned that the listener had prepared and had some money saved up for bills and mortgage. So to your point, how much is that? Does that cover bills, mortgage? Does that include an emergency fund? Is there a surplus beyond that? And then what does that mean in terms of any negative consequences of interest that would be accrued if you were to be able to move forward and pausing those payments? Or might you be better off, continuing to do that if there's the capability to do that with the funds that are available? So we appreciate the question, and thank you, Kelly, for taking time to answer the question. And for those that are not yet a part of the YFP Facebook group in the community, we'd love to have you join us in the Your Financial Pharmacist Facebook group. And if you have a question that you'd like to have featured on an upcoming Ask a YFP CFP episode of the Your Financial Pharmacist podcast, please go to yourfinancialpharmacist.com/ask YFP, or you can send us an email at info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com. Have a great rest of your week.